Oh, hi there. Ollie Anderson here. Have you ever stopped to really think about how pointless worrying about things is? Like, if you really step back and have a look at what you're doing when you're worrying, you're just taking yourself out of your own life and the natural flow of things, and you're just repeating the same thoughts over and over again in your head endlessly without anything ever changing. It's the most pointless thing that you can do. And that's what I want to show you in this video. Why it's a waste of time and what you can do instead. Every time you get caught up in that hamster wheel of worrying, it's for one main reason. The reason being that you have forgotten one of the most basic and fundamental rules of life, which is that you're a human being, you have the power to change things, that you can make a difference in your own life in many, many cases. And when you can't make a difference, then you've probably tapped into something that is inevitable and can't be changed, which we'll onto in a second. And so it's not worth worrying about anyway. Ultimately, the rule of life that we need to pay attention to is very simple to express. We can say, if you feel bad, then you need to change something so you can feel good. That does sound very simple, and it is simple, but unfortunately, a lot of people don't follow that rule because they get stuck in these kind of loops that I'm talking about. And what happens is they get to that I'm feeling bad part, and then they just keep ruminating and thinking about all of the reasons why they feel bad, or all of the hypothetical reasons in the future based on their imagination, basically, because it hasn't happened yet, as to why they're going to feel bad. And so they just get caught up in that loop of reinforcing that feeling of badness instead of shifting focus onto the solution instead of the problem and allowing themselves to start feeling good. Another rule of life is that what you focus on grows. And so if you keep focusing on the problem and you get caught up in your feelings and all your fear and everything like that, then you're just going to get more and more of that stuff. But if you can step back and be present in your life and the process of life and flow that is always unfolding, then you can actually shift yourself into solution over the problem. And then you're going to start feeling good, or you're going to feel better. This basic rule of life, that if we feel bad, we can change some things to feel good, shows us that worrying is really pointless for two ways. And this is probably the most important part of this video, because if you understand what I'm saying, you'll realize that there is literally no point in worrying about anything ever. The first reason that worrying is pointless is that if you start to focus on the solution instead of the problem, and you can actually find a solution, then you're going to do something. And then when you do something, the problem is solved, and then you no longer have anything to worry about. So that is the first reason that it's pointless, because if you actually can find a solution to the problem, whatever it may be that you are worried about, then you will do something. There is no reason why you wouldn't do it if you'd come up with a solution. The problem is some of us stop us getting to that point because we're so focused on the feeling bad and all the bad things we imagine happening that we never actually get to the point where we start thinking about solutions. We'll get onto that in a second as well. The second reason that worrying is pointless is because if this is true about finding the solution, then it means we will take action, like I said. But then in the cases where there genuinely is no solution, like you've been thinking about it for a while, using your creativity to find a way forward, really digging into it, if you can genuinely not find a solution, then all that means is that you have hit upon reality. So let's say, for example, you're worried about death and you're trying to find a solution to the fact that you're going to die one day. You can go around in circles thinking about that forever, but you are never, ever, ever going to find a solution to that problem, not because there's something wrong with you or there's something wrong with life. It just is part of life. We're all going to die one day. And so that is not a problem that requires a solution. It's just something that we need to accept. That is an extreme example, but there will be so many things in your life that you're worried about now where there is no solution and you're actually just resisting reality. You're resisting the inevitable way that things are. And so because of that lack of acceptance, which is what resistance is, you're going round and around and around in circles because you have some emotional thing that is blocking you from that acceptance. But if you understand that it's either about finding a solution, taking it, problem gone, no need to worry, or looking at yourself and how you can go deeper into acceptance so you don't have to worry about things that can't be changed, then that basically covers all the bases, and worrying is always pointless. And so if you can understand that, then whatever you're worried about now, you either need to figure out the solution or you need to get to acceptance, and then there is no problem and you won't need to worry, and you can get back into your life and be present and start doing the things that you want to do that are actually going to make you feel good and real. If we constantly find ourselves on this hamster wheel of negative thinking, going around and around in circles, worrying about all the hypothetical, terrible things that could happen to us, which are not actually taking place in reality, but are just what ifs, then it means that we're not doing one of the two things I just mentioned. We're either not trying to find a solution or we're not accepting something. In both cases of not doing those things, the root problem is the same. It's a denial or a resistance to reality. If there is a solution and you're not going to move forward and take it, then you're resisting reality, probably because your ego, which is always the problem because the ego is the opposite of reality, is not willing to allow you to move forward and take the solution, because probably that is going to change the way that you relate to yourself. That's going to ask you to reconfigure the ego. You might have to face your own emotional stuff. You might have to get out of your comfort zone. You might have to face the shadow self, yada, yada, yada. The solution is a threat to the ego because it's going to involve you becoming more real. In the other case of acceptance, it's the same thing. You are going to have to do some work on yourself to see what emotional and mental blocks that you have to actually accepting the way that life is and the way that it really works, whether you like it or not, because it just is what it is. And when it is what it is, reality doesn't care what we like or dislike. So it's just something that we have to accept. And in that case, when it comes to acceptance, if you can't do that, then again, it's the ego. There'll be some underlying emotional thing that's causing you to resist accepting the truth about things. And so you are identifying or trying to cling to an identity that goes against that acceptance for whatever reason. We don't have time to talk about that in that video. But the point is, if you're worrying, then you are resisting reality. And so the way forward is always to get in touch with reality so that you'll either take the action that you need to take, or you'll come to terms with not in a way where you're resigning or you're giving up or you're surrendering in a weak way, just using the strength that you have to accept the truth about life and the way things are, so you can have a solid foundation of your relationship with yourself and your relationship with life. If you don't have those things, then you're going to worry. And the only reason you are worrying is because you're not identifying as yourself in your realness. You're filtering your experience of yourself and life through the ego. And the ego is actually the thing that's causing you to go around in the hamster wheel. So that you either don't take action or you don't accept life. And in both cases, you're going to stay stuck. You're going to stay where you are, which is probably where you don't want to be, to be honest. But the ego is not going to be threatened. And so you feel safe, even though it's actually causing you to worry, because the safety is not real safety. It's just a fear of moving forward and finding out who you really are and what life is. If you're somebody who constantly finds yourself on this hamster wheel of worrying and going around in circles, then ultimately what it means is that you need to start growing more real in yourself. Growing more real means that you are going to have to find a way to become less fragmented in the way that you identify with yourself and the way that you filter everything through a little box that you've been living in, the ego, and that you start to get in touch with yourself in wholeness. What that ultimately means is that instead of living as a kind of idea of yourself or an abstraction, then you get in touch with the real experience of yourself. One reason that people get stuck and they get caught in this loop is because they're not moving forward. They're not taking action. And that's because the ego needs to keep people in the comfort zone, because if they get out of it, then they're going to have to face all of the parts of themselves that they've been hiding from in order to stay fragmented in the first place, because that fragmentation gives a sense of security. But even though we were secure, it's not really what we want, which is why people who are in that state, worrying, also feel restless. They feel anxiety, they feel depression sometimes. It's because they're disconnected from their core. So anyway, if you want to get to that state where you can take action when there's something to actually do, or when you can slow down and let life fill in the blanks, when it's just a case of accepting that it is what it is in some cases, then there are three things that you need to do. And I'll go over them really quickly because I'm trying to make this a quick video, but they all end in system. You need to work on your nervous system, your belief system, and you need a vision system. Your nervous system simply means that you can train yourself to get to the point where your nervous system is regulated. This means that instead of being in fight or flight and seeing everything as a threat, which means that you're going to be worrying, there's some perceived threat either in the present situation that you find yourself in, or usually in the case of people who are stuck on this hamster wheel, in the future, or in a non-distinct future that hasn't actually been disclosed yet. There's some threat, and so they're stuck in fight or flight mode, and that's causing their nervous system to get worked up and go into sympathetic dominance. and then they end up having all of the symptoms that come with that. They're going to be erratic, they're going to be worked up, etc, etc. What you need to do is learn to regulate your nervous system so you can actually come back to reality and come back to the present moment. You need to activate your parasympathetic nervous system by doing things like breath work. Slowing down your breathing is the one that I always recommend. Nose breathing is the way to do it. I pointed at my nose in case you don't know what a nose is. The reason that nose breathing is so important is because you can't consistently breathe through your nose if your sympathetic nervous system is kicking in. The parasympathetic nervous system will kick in if you consistently breathe through your nose. So that's a good one to do. But then there's other things you can do as well, like yin yoga and things like that. Go for a walk in the woods, anything that's going to regulate your nervous system. The second thing you need to do is look at your belief system. One reason that people get caught up in this hamster wheel and they keep worrying is because their belief system is causing them to identify in such a way where they're not going to take action. They feel helpless. They feel like there's nothing to do. They have self-limiting beliefs that put a veil between them and reality. And what you ultimately need to do is start testing your assumptions at the level of your belief system and kind of weed out anything that is actually causing you to be unreal. For the sake of brevity, we can say that anything that's making you unreal is anything that's causing you to hold back and hesitate on your real life, or to focus more on the problem than the solution, or on resistance over acceptance. If you can figure out your beliefs and you're also doing the nervous system stuff, then you're attacking this from all areas, the mind and the body with the nervous system and the mind with the belief stuff. The final thing that helps people is to have a vision system. I just like using the word system. That's why I put system at the end of all these things. But your nervous system, your belief system, and your vision system. A vision system simply means that you know where you're going in life. You have a vision that's real for who you are, who you're becoming, what you want in the future. It needs to be aligned with your values, your true goals. It needs to be aligned with the gifts that you have to give the world. But also, it's not just about you. It's about allowing you to serve other people so that as you serve them, you also grow at the same time. But that means you're not just in your ego, focused on yourself. You're actually focused outside of yourself on the world around you. If you do that, then there's way less to worry about anyway. The reason that people worry, or one reason that people worry, is because they're so caught up on themselves. When we're worrying, we're normally thinking about the threats to our very being, our very existence, our reputation, our ego. Having a vision that helps you focus on others and that's aligned with your values gets you out of your head and puts you into life. Once you got the vision, though, the other parts of the system are having some goals that are going to take you towards that vision and daily habits that are going to allow you to keep growing in this way, that's going to support your growth forward towards the solution, which is always reality, instead of getting stuck in old habits, which are the things that are causing you to worry anyway, because you're just focused on an old version of yourself that is probably no longer aligned with the truth about who you are, because the ideas of ourselves always got out of date, because life is constantly changing, we're constantly growing, we're getting older, we're getting wiser in some cases. And so if we don't update our ego from time to time, then basically the software is out of date and we get friction, frustration, and misery in our lives. So the vision system is getting a vision, breaking it down to goals, having habits. If you can work on your nervous system, your belief system, and have a vision system in place, whilst understanding that it's about knowing that if there's a problem, you can solve it, or if there isn't a problem, then you just have to accept it, then you'll definitely stop worrying. You'll be able to train yourself to worry hardly ever. It sounds crazy to some people, especially if you're watching this and you're someone who worries all the time. I used to worry incessantly. Now I hardly ever worry because I've been doing all this stuff and I know it works because now I'm just in the flow instead of forcing life according to my little ideas about myself and all of my fears. And you can do it too, because all you need to do is just make yourself more real. So that was a video about not worrying. It was a bit of a rant at times, but hopefully you understand the point I'm making, which is that there is no point in worrying. It's literally pointless. If you can focus on the problem instead of the solution, then you'll find a solution, which means you're going to take action and do the solution. Why wouldn't you if you found the solution? Or if there isn't a solution, there genuinely isn't, then it just means that you have to work on accepting that life just is what it is sometimes. And then there's nothing to worry about there because you can't change it. So it's a waste of time. If you understand that and you start living in such a way where you're regulating your nervous system, you're checking your belief system, and you've got a vision system in place so you keep moving forward, even in the downtimes when you don't actually know exactly what to do, you know what direction you want to move in, then you're going to keep flowing instead of getting stuck and stagnating and being caught on this hamster wheel of worrying. I have trained myself not to worry. I've seen my clients worry way, way less, not at all hardly in some cases. It's something that you can do when you understand that it's all about being real, and real always works. If you want to talk to me, you can book a call on my website. There's a link here, ollieanderson.co.uk/talk. It's just a free coaching session so you can see what I can do for you, how coaching can help you move you forward. I've also got a new book which will definitely help you worry less if you are a worrier. It's called Trust. There's an image up here. Basically, it's about how you can trust yourself and trust life. It talks about many of the things it talks about in this video. But anyway, I hope that helps you. There's no need to worry. It's a waste of time. Find some action that you can take instead. And if you can't take it, well, it just is what it is. But don't worry about it because that's not within your control anyway. So you might as well just go with the flow until the next course of action does become clear. Do your best. Let go of the rest. That's how you live a real life. Stay real out there. Peace to you. Thanks for watching.